What's going on, y'all? Alright, as we talked about in Saturday Morning Live 16, and as I have done in the past, I did another tier list. That's right, I have made the second Locksmith tier list in existence that I still know of. I don't know if anybody else has done tier list, but we're going to do another tier list. Now, if you don't know what a tier list is, we did a tier list back again after another live video that we did in the live video. I kind of like getting the feedback in live and then re-releasing the list because I like to get, people's thoughts and ideas on certain things. And if we look, we did a residential lock tier list a while ago. It was just a couple of months ago after a live, and then I redid it for its own separate video. And basically tier list are taking objects and rating them in a scale of best to worst. Typically in the real people's world is done with fast food or movies, stuff like that, where they rate them based on certain criteria. So this Saturday Morning Live, if you were there, hopefully you were there, this is kind of going to be a repeat. So again, you know what we're doing here, but we did another tier list, and it is Locksmith Pain by Object. Now, knock on wood, everybody go knock on wood right now. We all hate injuries, but injuries happen in our world. So, how this got spurred on, again, as I mentioned in our live, we had our Night Owl. Everybody knows Night Owl in Twitter a few days ago. I never could go back and find, because he tweets a lot, but I never could find what he was replying to. Presumably he was replying to himself. But he said, I can recommend not putting the following items through your hand based on personal experience: drill bits, stationary, drill bit spinning, X-Acto or craft knives, soldering irons, nails, ballpoint pens, pencils, pieces of glass, sheet metal, and fire-rated doors. And I saw that and I took a screenshot, forgot about it, saw it in my folder. So during the live, I was like, let's do a tier list on Locksmith Pain by Object, because nobody's ever done one, so we're going to do it. This is version 2, just like the residential one. We got some ideas in the live feed. Unfortunately, YouTube killed the live chat for that video, so we can't put, like we did before, the live chat in there. But just going on what I remember everybody talking about, we're going to talk about that. We're going to hide this image, and in this video, we see my cursor down here. Hello, cursor. We have images of everything. Drill bits. This is a little pile of drill bits right here. Stationary. Now, as I'm going to talk about, there's broken drill bits and then there's whole drill bits. We're just going to call it drill bits. Spinning is this drill right here. X-Acto craft knife right here. Soldering iron, this little yellow tool. Nails, there's a pile of them right there. Ballpoint pen right here. Pencil right here. Pieces of glass, that's this little shard of glass over here, because it's always going to be broken glass that cuts you, right? Sheet metal, that's this pile right here. And then fire-rated doors, that's these couple of little doors right here. In the live feed, somebody said, how can fire-rated doors puncture your hand? Yes, they can. And I added some of my own, and then in the live feed, we added a couple more. So this list is actually different. I added a new category, but I added my own in the initial list. Wood chisels right here. Hook picks or dental picks, like these little doodads. Jab into your hand. Screws right there. Wire brush right here. Phillips and flathead screwdriver. Car door panels, which is kind of like sheet metal. I realized that when I was redoing this video. It's kind of like sheet metal, but it's its own thing. Circlip or retaining ring pliers. And keys themselves. And did I miss one? I think I got them all. And then in the live feed, somebody said picks. I don't even know why I didn't put picks in the picture, because that's what we're all going to stab ourselves with. And shims. And our categories go: just a flesh wound, just a flesh wound. That's actually going to be our lightest category, because if you know Monty Python and the Holy Grail, he gets his arm and his leg cut off, and he's like, it's just a flesh wound. However, in our category, in our lineup, just a flesh wound is going to be more of a minor issue. Something that happens all the time, something that'll heal up with no problem. Gonna hurt later. A lot of these are puncture wounds. Gonna hurt later is gonna be a puncture wound where it really doesn't bleed a whole lot, but it really hurts later. Now, this is the new category, messy and painful. I put it between bring extra paper towels. In the other one, we did not have this third category. We went straight from gonna hurt later to bring extra paper towels. However, as I was putting them in there, I was kind of like wanting an extra category, so we're gonna do it for version 2. Messy and painful is one of those that does bleed a good bit and requires bandages. Bring extra paper towels, we're going to put that up a notch because that is just like kind of getting to a major point where you're like, oh, do I need stitches? Maybe, maybe not. Just wrap up duct tape and paper towels around it. And then lastly is crap. Crap is we're going to have to go to the hospital. We're going to have to get stitches. We're going to have to get something major done. So let's get started. I'm going to go on memory from Night Owl's image. We'll bring it up one more time here. And I'm going to go on memory when I do that. So start off with drill bits. Stationary. Now, I did not separate those into broken or whole. When you're drilling something and a drill bit breaks, it can go through your finger. It's going to be a little bit different than when a stationary sharp pointed drill bit goes through your finger because a broken bit is going to be jagged on the end. So let's just presume, and also different sizes. You have small to big. You know, it's going to be a lot different if you put a 3/8 bit through your hand versus a 1/8 inch bit. We're going to assume most of all this is kind of minor. It's kind of hard to scale, you know, stuff like that because a drill bit going through your hand could literally send you to the hospital. So we're just going to presume all this is, you know, kind of minor, smaller injuries. Of course, there's extenuating circumstances that's going to cause you major, more issues. But we're going to put drill bits into messy and painful because that's our new category and they are messy and painful. If you shove either a broken bit or a full bit that is stationary, not spinning, it's going to be messy. It's going to hurt for a while. And that brings us to the spinning drill bits. Spinning drill bits are going to go on up to bring extra paper towels. Spinning drill bits, if you are not able to stop it before it enters your skin, it is going to cause a lot more problems. You're going to need a lot of paper towels. That's kind of right there on the verge of, crap, do I need to go to the hospital? Or do I just need to bandage myself up really heavily? So it's going to go in the bring extra towels category now since we have a new category. His next one was X-Acto knives. Now, you know, there's a big difference in puncture wounds and slashes. An X-Acto knife is a razor blade. So razor blades are going to be, they can be a flesh wound. They can be messy and painful. If you puncture yourself with it, it can gonna hurt later. So out of these three, I'm actually just going to put it in just a flesh wound because after all, compared to a drill bit, compared to a lot of these other things, it is still just a razor blade cut, right? I mean, it could be a bad razor blade cut and be messy and painful, but we're just going to presume it's just so you jab it into your finger a little bit, just a flesh wound. If it's like that and the point goes in your skin, I've had that happen many times. It doesn't bleed a whole lot. It can be sore later, but compared to some of the other ones, we're just going to put that at just a flesh wound. Next on his list was, I think, nails. Now, nails are not used in the locksmithing trade. You should not be using nails. However, you might run across nails when you're working on wood because, you know, buildings have nails in them. You might scratch yourself. You might jab yourself somehow or another. Most of the time, those are going to be puncture wounds. They're not going to be too huge. You shouldn't run across many big nails when you're locksmithing. So we're going to put it in gonna hurt later because as a puncture wound, it'll go in and come back out. It's not going to bleed a whole lot, but it's going to be very painful and sore for a while after that. And soldering iron would come next on his list. Soldering irons are going to be a gonna hurt later as well. They are going to cauterize. Most of the time, if you jab yourself, you're going to be using it, so it's going to be hot. So it's going to cauterize the wound. And a burn and a cut or a jab or a poke is definitely going to hurt later. It's probably not going to bleed a whole lot, but it's definitely going to be sore. Burns themselves hurt, and then when you add a cut or a jab or a poke into it, it's just going to hurt a lot later. And after that, I believe we had a pen, a ballpoint pen. I've jabbed myself a lot with the ballpoint pen. I went ahead and automatically, I'm going to move it to just a flesh wound or gonna hurt later. Since we have this new category, I really can't decide what I want to do with that. We're going to call it just a flesh wound because a lot of ballpoint pens are sharp angled, so it may go in and it may hurt like heck and hurt for a while afterward. It's definitely going to hurt for a while afterward. Yeah, we'll leave it right there. But with pencils, you bring pencils into it, and I mentioned this in the live feed. I don't like pencils because I like sharp tips, and pencils always break. That's why I use pens and not pencils for my marking on doors and stuff, because I always hate pulling out a pencil and then having to sharpen it. They just go too fast, and then the graphite, the lead that's in it, just, I've never, growing up as a kid, I hated pencils. I always liked writing in pen. It can be messy and painful, but it's definitely going to hurt later, especially if you break the tip off in your skin, which, yes, I have done. Broken a piece of tip off. I had a piece in my leg for years and years, and it was sore for a long time after I jabbed myself. So we're just going to put those two in the same since we have the new category, because both of them are about equal, depending on if that lead stays in your system or not. And then after that, what else did he have? He had glass. Glass, as represented by this shard. With antique glass doorknobs, I've had customers where the glass doorknob, they were trying to open it and it broke, and there were shards of glass just like that picture, exactly like that picture, and they turned and it tore their hand open. So glass is going to be messy. It's going to be painful. It's going to require extra towels most of the time. Depending on how bad it is, it's going to be a crap. But we're just going to bring extra towels, because if you got good enough with glass, it can definitely be an issue, and you may need stitches, and you do have to get a tetanus shot in the U.S. if you go even with the glass injury. They're going to make you do a tetanus shot. So messy and painful, but definitely bring extra towels, because glass cuts like that are always going to bleed. Could be really bad, require a hospital, but we're just going to stick with bring extra towels. In the live feed, I mentioned that about a year and a half ago, I was working on a collinear door. I did a video of it. I'll try to put a link up here in the corner, but it hit me right in the head because you had to pull the center pane glass out, and luckily my forehead caught it and it didn't break, but it gashed me right there, and it bled while I was there the whole time. I had to finish work with a towel over my head. I needed extra towels, and it was sore for a while after that. Next on his list was sheet metal. So sheet metal would be like kick plates, would be like drilling into a metal door, and the ragged edge of the metal catching your hand, putting on a kick plate, putting on a push plate, hitting yourself, any kind of sheet metal, which panic bars, doors themselves, any kind of sheet metal like that. If it's thick enough and it's stable enough, not like the shims that we have here, but sheet metal itself can cause a bad injury, and it's definitely going to be messy and painful, but it's also definitely going to be bring extra towels if you gash yourself. I've cut myself on plenty of kick plates before, and it always bled pretty bad. And last on his list was fire-rated doors, and just like before, we're going to put it in crap, because if a fire-rated door punctures you, you are most likely going to need assistance. You're going to need help, because somebody in the live feed, I can't remember, I think it was Darcy, mentioned, how does that happen? The door swinging shut and catching your hand. You're most likely going to seriously injure yourself, so it belongs in the crap category. It can happen. It's happened to me. I've had doors slam on my hand, had panic bars get caught. Things happen. Anything can happen. Knock on wood, you just have to be very careful. But it definitely belongs in the crap category, because if you get punctured by a fire-rated door or a prison door, as Fred Flintstoner pointed out in the video, those are heavy doors. Those are all definitely going to be a crap situation. So then I added my own, but before we add our own, in the live feed, somebody said picks, and then LPP said shims. I think it was James Randolph said picks. LPP said shims. So shims, lock shims, those devil little slices of sheet metal. They belong in just a flesh wound. They're the most infuriating little cuts. However, it's just a flesh wound. I cut myself all the time with those on your fingertips. It's going to happen. They can be a little sore, but really they're just a flesh wound. Now the biggest one, everybody here deals with picks. If you've not jabbed yourself with a pick, consider yourself lucky. It's gonna hurt later. Definitely it's gonna hurt later because picks aren't made to enter your skin. You know, at minimum 14, 15 thousandths jabbing into your skin. It's gonna be a puncture type wound. Not gonna bleed a whole lot. However, it's gonna be sore for a while afterwards. So this definitely goes in the gonna hurt later category. And here's where I added mine. These were my ideas that I came up with after seeing night owls. Chisels, wood chisels specifically in your bag. Like if you're reaching in your bag and somehow your chisel is pointing up and you reach in there and it catches you, yes, it's messy and painful. It belongs in the messy and painful category. Not quite bring extra towels depending on how sharp your chisel is. Hopefully your chisels are sharp. But it's definitely a messy and painful situation when you catch yourself with the wood chisel. Dental picks. Dental picks belong in the gonna hurt later. That's these little, dental pokey things that we all use for different things. That tip goes in your finger. It's smooth, straight up puncture wound. Doesn't bleed a lot, but it's definitely sore. Some people might say it's just a flesh wound, which it is. But they have a real bad habit of being sore for a while afterward compared to shims or a nice slice like that. Let's see, we have a circlip driver, retaining ring pliers. So the tips of those are not very deep. So they're not going to go if they can get into your skin, they're not going to really go that deep. Most of the time you're using those to remove a clip or something or do something really you're not supposed to be doing with them. However, the tips are just enough to puncture and get into the nerve area of your skin. Not really deep enough to cause a lot of bleeding, but just enough to really mess up those nerves, and that's going to be a gonna hurt later category. Now, along with night owl's nails, I had screws. Screws are way worse than nails because most of the time you're going to be putting pressure on it, and if it goes into your finger, it may be twisting, on a drill, somehow it goes in. That's going to be messy and painful. Messy and painful because it's going to leave a ragged little tear in your skin, and it's just painful. Wire brushes are gonna hurt later. No matter what, those little suckers, and people are like, that's just a flesh wound. But literally, out of everything that you could possibly jab yourself with, one of those little wire brush strands going into your finger can be sore for literally 2 weeks. It's crazy how bad those things hurt. They don't bleed. It made a little drop of blood, but they hurt so bad if it gets you good. And it's definitely gonna hurt later. Definitely worse than a shim thing. Now going back to screws, we had in the live feed we talked about, I threw this out. I said, which one do y'all think? Flathead or Phillips head? Or plus sign or minus sign for a screwdriver? So if you're using a screwdriver and you're putting a lot of weight into it and it slips and goes into your hand, which one of the two, flathead or Phillips head, or Robertson head as y'all would call it in other parts of the world, which one would hurt worse? Well, my initial thought, my immediate thought is flathead. Flathead seems to always hurt worse than Phillips. Phillips is going to be a straight up puncture wound. It's going to hurt later for sure. It's going to be really sore. Whereas flathead is going to be messy and painful. So, again, that goes back to puncture versus slash. With a flathead, you more have a gaping wound that's allowed to bleed. Whereas a Phillips head going into your finger, done it, been there, done that. Many times it may bleed a little bit, but it's definitely going to hurt for a long time and be sore. Not probably bleed as much. All depends on the size of it, going back to everything else, how big it is. But in the live comments, which we can't access, everybody, for the most part, there were many more votes for flathead than Phillips, so I feel like I chose right on that. Car doors. Car door panels are kind of just like sheet metal. And messy and painful. They're not quite as bad as true sheet metal because you have less of a chance of fast impact. If you're working a car door, you're going to scratch up your arms. You don't have to work on car doors a lot anymore, but back in the day when we did have to pull car door panels and stick your arm in there, you're always going to get sliced up on that. It's not quite the same as sheet metal, even though it is sheet metal that's cutting you, because with regular sheet metal or a door situation, there's always kind of be more velocity to it hurting you, and with a car door, it's more of a, okay, I'm grabbing it, I got it, oh my God, it's cutting into my arm right here, I'm not going to let it go though, and then you have these, marks in your arm, and they can, cut you and be kind of painful and sore, and that's just why a car door sucks. So I'm putting that in messy and painful. Lastly, keys. Now, keys, I put this, it's kind of a joke. It has happened over the years. I've seen one picture of somebody with a key shoved through their hand, and somebody around here had the same thing happen. They told me that a key went into their hand. So if a key has enough force to go into your skin to puncture your hand, it's probably bad. It's probably going to require medical attention. So of course, you will be messy and painful. You will need extra towels. It's going to hurt later. It's just flesh wound. It's just the top. You are most likely, if you have enough velocity of a key to get into your skin, it's probably going to require some kind of medical intervention. So that's it. I'm going to go ahead and print this screen so that I can put the other version of that up there. And let's see, I think I have it actually right here. Oh, no, I don't have it right here. So, yes, that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. If y'all have any questions or comments on our Locksmith Paint by Object tier list, feel free to leave them in the comments. And hope you enjoyed part 2 or version 2 of it. Any other tier list I come up with, I kind of like getting the feedback from the live. So even though you kind of have to watch it twice, I kind of feel like they need their own video. So thanks again, everybody. The second ever Locksmith related tier list that I know of, and if it's not the second ever, then I just don't care about any of the other ones. But that's the second ever tier list. Not residential, that was my first one. Locksmith Paint by Object. I hope you agree with me. I think that's about accurate. I mean, anybody who's been jabbed by any of these things will probably agree with this list. So I think we're good. Thanks for watching, guys. Y'all have a great one, and we'll catch you next video.